Hello, everyone. This is Kristan here, the managing partner of Chur Associates. And here I am addressing a very interesting topic today. It's called Understanding the Legal Challenges as a Property Investor in This New Normal. First and foremost, welcome to the new normal. You know, the world have never been the same ever since the COVID-19 outbreak. And we are still at the peak of it. There's no sign to say that we're going to end soon. But in any event, as a property investor, we must be resilient and also dynamic enough to take on these new challenges and opportunity before us. And here I am trying to give you some legal challenges for you to think about what you can do in relation to this in this new normal. All right, so you're ready? Let's rock and roll. We have 40 minutes and we should target to finish this presentation within 40 minutes. All right, so in this presentation, we shall address a few things. Number one, what are the challenges in the new normal, right? And number two is that knowing these are the challenges in the new normal, we have to look at the updates and adjustment to the Kristan property investment model, right? And issues and solution in the buy, sell, use, and borrow of the property investment. Basically, buy, sell, use, borrow is what I meant by the Kristan property investment model, which I have come up with in response to Kiyosaki's ESBI model. And of course, we will talk about dispute prevention and management of property, management for property investors. So one thing is very important is that obviously me being an investor and me being also a lawyer will execute the entire topic today from the angle of legal as well. So welcome to the new normal today. I'm sure these are very new today. We talk about social distancing, talking about wearing face masks, talking about be very aware, taking the MySejahtera scan today everywhere, and these are no longer new, right? So we have to really keep our distance, even if the way we take our leave and everything. So this is already the normal today, and no matter what you do today, and also plus all the roadblock, and also enhance movement control order that you see everywhere, the barbed wires and everything else. So this is really here to stay. We have been in this situation for more than a year plus now. So what have we approached and what are the difference today is for about 1.5 years right now. So the new normal in property, right? The new normal in property. So I want to highlight to you is that, even in property for that matter, we also have new normal in the sense that, we no longer manage our property in approaching our tenant straight away. We are no longer using property the way that we used to use them. We now work from home for all intent and purposes, and ventilation and indoor air quality is of very, very important, and sanitization and things like that, they are health concern as well. And we have to also use a lot of technology to leverage on what we need to do today. Just as I'm delivering this via Zoom in the comfort of my own office, again, the whole idea here is that you're no longer on stage, but we are doing this in a new normal. Right, so are we heading back to the good old time anytime soon? The answer is probably no. And now we'd have the whole idea of new normal, but by the way, if 1.5 years into it, we should say that it's actually the now normal. And what we are looking forward is really the next normal, in the sense that, even if we ever go back to the good old time, the good old time have to be redefined to take into account of some good practices and to stay healthy and to stay safe. I think that's important. If for every property investor, you have to think about, you can't probably get back to the good old days immediately. And also even for traveling, it will be very limited. So henceforth, if you are targeting foreign investors and everything else and tourists and whatnot, so you really have to get yourself prepared and see that the flow is not going to be very, very fast. And even if it's back to the normalcy that we crave, it will take some time. It will be gradually done in stages, right? In fact, I think there will be never normal again, right? And of course, looking at our political scenario in this country, of course, nothing is ever normal, right? So I'm sure you know what I mean. So let's look at our COVID situation in Malaysia, right? For the entire month of June, you can see that the thing is spiked up at the end of the month, right? And you can see that everything is almost, for example, you can see from the starting of 19th of June 2019, all the way up to here, you can see that there is gradually up, and currently the average is probably around 7,000 every day, right? For all intent and purposes, I'm not sure how this will do. If you believe in some of the simulation and report, we are not at the worst yet. End of August, September could be another heat wave coming. So notwithstanding that vaccination is happening at the moment, and there are also the new variants of the Delta, the Lambda, which is more powerful in relation to the spread of the viruses to us. So I'm saying to you that this pandemic, to me, is not going to end anytime soon. So being a property investor, you have to get prepared for all intent and purposes in relation to this sense. Next slide. Okay, so of course, we have so many MCO being actually introduced in Malaysia. We have somehow lose track of it. So I'm saying to you that MCO to me actually in the international context is called lockdown, right? So we talk about movement control order. We have conditional movement control order, recovery, enhanced, SEMCO, TEMCO, TMCO, and also targeted enhanced MCO. Effectively, that we also lead to what we currently have is called FMCO, full movement control order. And to now, also within the full MCO, there is actually EMCO in certain area in relation to this. So as far as we're concerned, there are so many type of MCO, and for all intent and purposes, we need to really understand ourselves. And of course, at this stage, we are talking about, we are actually in the National Recovery Plan. We have an exit plan to go out of all this MCO. However, looking at the number, it is not very, very pleasing. The only good news is that certain areas, certain states have slowly easing into phase 2. But as far as Klang Valley is concerned, we are nowhere near. We account for about half of the daily COVID positive cases every day. So it's not going to be cleared in any time soon. All right, so that's what we call the FMCO, nationwide FMCO from 1st June onward. By the way, there's no ending to FMCO, because after that, what it breaches us, the interpretation is that in FMCO, there's the start of what we call the National Recovery Plan, the NRP. In relation to that, from stage to stage, we will manage what is the next phase. For example, in order to move from phase 1 to phase 2, we need to have an average daily cases, positive cases of not more than 4,000. But the way we look at KL and the Klang Valley, as far as we're concerned, we are still looking at about 6,000 to 7,000. So we are nowhere near. And the other thing is this national vaccination. We have to really achieve certain target to be at least 10% before we move to phase 2. And also, very importantly, the capacity of ICU in the hospital bed. But looking at the situation is not very likely at the moment. So although the National Recovery Plan is a half-year plan until 31st of December, hopefully we can meet phase 1 to phase 2, phase 2 to phase 3, phase 3 to phase 4. But being a good property investor, you must know that what does it mean. So these are the legal challenges into managing your property investment from now on. And it's very fluid. I'm saying to you is that although we have a National Recovery Plan announced by Tan Sri Mahathir in relation to the National Recovery Plan recently, right? I also don't know, because for all intents and purposes, anytime there will be new announcement and then you will supersede the previous one. So I'm saying to you, and what perplexed me is that I still don't know whether Tan Sri will remain our Prime Minister as well, looking at the recent development of our political scene. So another issue about all these things, that being a property investor, you realize that, there's a lot of SOP that you really have to adhere to. As you know that, we have the national, the Majlis Keselamatan Negara, which is the National Security Council, publishing SOP from time to time. Then we have our state authority, local authority, also publishing state of SOP from time to time. So we can see that SOP for MCO area, for CMCO area, for enhanced MCO area, and also for full MCO area are very different. So again, being a property investor, you must be keep updated all around to see how you can manage your property and in adherence with the standard operation procedure. And of course, while we are having a few MCO and lockdown, the economic is actually being impacted. And being a good property investor, you must also know the many assistance program roll out, from Prihatin to Kita Prihatin to Permai, to Prenjana, to Permakasa, to Permakasa Plus, to today the latest one called Permule, right? We still have a lot of new logo to recognize too, but the whole idea here is not just the name, but being a good property investor, you must be able to read what's inside and whether anything of this sort are actually applicable to you. For example, as a property investor who take loan from the banks, you will be very keen to know under Permule there's a 6-month unconditional, right? Supposedly unconditional moratorium to your loan repayment for 6 months, provided you apply for it, provided you pay for all your payment up to date. So there are options and choices, there are hidden terms. So being a property investor is important that every time there's an announcement of this sort, you must see that what's in it for you and how can you use it to your best advantage. So what is new normal? If you say that, Chris, what are the new challenges? So I'm just saying that new normal is very simple. New normal today means live with COVID-19. So let's put it this way, COVID-19 will be here to stay. It will stay like with us moving forward from now on. It will not eradicate from our planet Earth just like that. All right, it will not be a dinosaur suddenly. All of them have gone extinct. I don't think so. It's here to stay. And looking at COVID-19, vaccination is one of the way for us to prevent. And of course, there's testing as medication in relation to COVID-19 and being tested in a lot of hospital right now, but we still don't know the result. But the best thing is get yourself vaccinated. The sooner that you get yourself vaccinated, the better we are in dealing with the new condition of the new normal. So you must be used to this by now. I mean, these days, if you go everywhere, you can see that, whatever is roaming the street right now are actually all the delivery company, right? So we have the pink one, we have the green one, we have the yellow one, right? Even AirAsia, for all intent and purposes, has now gone into delivery as well. So you have the red one as well. So for all intent and purposes, these are here to stay. And I'm sure you have already using a lot of this delivery service so that you can get your supply and food and beverages being in at home and stay at home and limit your traveling distance. So this is a trend. Being a property investor, you must know what is this mean to you as a property investor, what kind of opportunity, what kind of challenges, and you need to go better than this. So I'm highlighting to you, these are actually happening at the moment. And of course, this also happening at the moment. You can see that, observing SOP is very important. You can see that the armed forces are out to do that. You can see that they're manning the roadblock. You are supposed to follow the line everywhere you go, in and out. And SOP, if you don't follow, there could be summons, things like that. So wearing a mask is a must. Right now is the main accessory these days. And of course, you should be very familiar with all this e-payment term right now, because we also want contactless payment, right? For all intent and purposes, your Push Pay, your Touch and Go, your Grab Pay, and everything else is actually applicable today. And the whole idea is not to touch anything, even your cash is a potential agent to spread the germ. So for all intent and purposes, delivery services go door to door, delivery pickup, as well as cashless payment. I think it has become one way or another part of the new normal. Okay, so in terms of human behavior, it is very good for you to know as a property investor to say that, use the 21-90 rules. So you take 21 days to create a habit, 90 days to create a lifestyle. We are now more than 90 days, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm saying to you, for all intent and purposes, buying online, cashless payment, everything else, and also delivery have become our lifestyle in this new normal now, or I say now normal, right? So actually, when I said that, you build a habit in 21 days, right? So you also need to break a habit with 22 days, you have found the way. So I'm saying to you is that for all intent and purposes, it's easy to build new habit. So we already developed this new habit. And even as of now, when I speak to present my paper over a Zoom context, I can already do it very smoothly without any problem. So hence, this is the now normal. Right, your habit will surely determine your future, right? This is what is said by Jack Canfield. I think it's very important for you to know is that now that we have developed this new habit, as property investor, what can we look at in relation to making the best out of a property investment? So is it still new normal, right? Things never go back to normal. You may need to create a new normal, and that's okay. And I think it's very important is that, as far as I'm concerned, it should be normal by now. Normal by now. For example, even my law firm, for all intent and purposes, we are not very normal to do online interview and meeting, and very useful for us to no more walk in, and we will set appointment to meet people, and we can meet online. These are the things that we want, right? So please let us do this, right? So let's look at what is the very famous Robert Kiyosaki in relation to the uh, revenue generation, or they call the cash flow model, in relation to someone who is an entrepreneur, business, self-employed, as well as investment. So this is the four way for you to generate money in your life. You can be in employment, you can be in business, you can be self-employed, and you can do investment as well. So being a property investor, always remember you are the eye of the ESBI. So if you believe Robert Kiyosaki, you're certainly in the right move to ensure that you will then receive a constant flow of cash into your life for all intended purposes, because of what you do in relation to this, right? But I have an answer to this, for specifically for property investor, right? So like I said, in this sense, the ESBI have active and passive. You have the active income, whereby you have to work for it, self-employed and whatnot, and you have the passive income, whereby you make money work for you, right? Big business, investor, etc. I'm not going to go into too much of Kiyosaki, but I think it's very important to see what is my answer to that. For property investor, I've actually introduced this model long ago, and this model is called BSUB. For all intended purposes, these are four things that the property investor can do to generate income and profit from your property investment. I call this property investment model, PIM. And by the way, it rhymes with my name as well. My name is Chur, so PIM is the Christian PIM, property investment model, right? So what are the four things that you can do, BSUB? So when you look at BSUB, this Christian property investment model, it actually stands for buy, sell, use, and borrow. So by the way, you can get money from buying, you can earn profit from buying property. If you buy at the right time with proper discount below market rate, you are actually making money. And of course, if you know how to leverage on the bank, there is potentially you buy and you have some cash flow into you as well. And of course, in selling, there's also another way of getting money. Of course, you sell at a profit and get the money in. And also because of the money that you paid down the bank over the years, those money also be eased up as a cash flow back to you. So that's sell. And how you use your property, predominantly on renting out as a landlord, and of course you can also use it to generate income as well. You could be operate business there, you could actually have co-working space there, you could have other way of using your property, for example, in relation to that, and renting out for the purpose of really generating some cash flow, right? For example, in this time frame, is that, how do you generate income from redundant restaurant space? How do you generate income from redundant retail space at this moment, right? For all intended purposes, very important. Like redundant restaurant place can actually expand to be central kitchen, for example, right? Later we'll go more into what can you do in relation to all this. Next one is borrow. As far as borrow is concerned, basically property is a very good collateral. And how do you then get money from the bank? We will then examine this model in details. So again, the property investment mantra of location, 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 is it still applicable today? The answer is simply no, simply because location is redefined also, because we can't really travel to here and there. Being approximate to the LRT station, being approximate to the city center doesn't make a difference today, because I can speak to you in the comfort of my own office, in the comfort of my home, and you don't even know how am I dressing like today. But for all intended purposes, the property investment mantra of location, location, location no longer applicable in relation to this pandemic era. As you know, welcome to 2020. We do have this whole thing about what was in 2020. The only thing that happened in 2020 is that Mahathir was actually a prime minister for a very short stint, of course. But anything in Vision 2020 is something that we cannot predict for all intent and purposes. We have one way or another become first world because everything is going online, and we will be sitting in our comfort of home where everything will then deliver and connect us. So in other way, are we a developed country? Yes, but no, we are working towards it. But yet, at the meantime, we have a new reality, right? In really, perhaps we part of Vision 2020 is happening, but certainly not the version of what we have in mind. passport, for example, one of the most useless thing in 2020, correct? And you can see that there's a lot of issue about, getting the frontliner have been redefined as those people who dress in blue in this slide, who are actually our medical frontliner these days. So what's the new property mantra in the new normal? My personal saying to you is connection. Connection meaning the internet connection. How do we connect to each other, the virtual one? How to be self-sufficient in where you are, right? There's nothing to be leveraged these days. And of course, how do you have safety concern addressed as well? You want to have low low exposure as well. So that's also very important as far as the air that you breathe or whatever that is. Remember, indoor air quality for all intended purposes is also very important in the new normal, in consideration for even property investment. So safety concern is very important. Self-sufficient, that you can actually integrated development these days suddenly have a niche, because all you need to do is take a lift and you don't have to travel anywhere, and you can go down to the grocery and then buy all the thing that you want. So connection, self-sufficient, and safety concern. Right. So if you believe in Sun Tzu art of war, it's very important to know yourself and know your enemy. 1,000 battle, 1,000 victory. Right. In Chinese, 知己知彼,百战百胜. So what does it mean is that in order to win this war as a property investor, you must know who you are. You must know what are you facing with, and then you can cater for your victory. So how do you know yourself, right? You have to chart out your resources with your clearly defined objective, right? Recalibrate again in light of new normal, very important. You must know what you want. You must know what you have, right? And then only when knowing that what you have, then you can only achieve what you want as an objective. For example, you want to get money or get cash flow from property investment, then you should chart out your resources. So the question is that, do you have any property? Are they generating income? What do you do to add on your personal ability and talent, and also your personal connection to add value to this property so that you can continue to generate income? And the way that I said, the 4 ways to generate income in property investment is actually buy, sell, use, borrow. Remember PIM, the property investment model of Krista. Yes. So making an informed decision and give yourself the best possible solution. So the best thing about making decision is really don't act based on rumor, don't act based on fake news, but act based on informed decision, right? Residential, social distancing, very important these days. These are some of the COVID-19 impact on property today in the new normal. First of all, residential is no longer residential for all intents and purposes, because for all intents and purposes, everyone have legalized some way or another work from home, right? So although the home is no longer for you to sleep, to rest, and having quality time with family, but the home is also a time for you to work as well, a place for you to work, right? And you have to observe social distancing there, because now residential places have been crowded all the time, day and night, right? So it's very important to also look at commercial space. So what happened to commercial space? We have to reinvent commercial space these days. So office, because of everyone work from home, office have a very different perspective right now. Later we will touch on it. And of course, we will talk about shopping and F&B in relation to those commercial space. What happened to them, right? You know that today, if you're not in essential good or essential services, you can't really open in shoppings, right? And this list will subject to change from time to time. And F&B today, the only way to survive is when you do delivery or pickup, right? That's the only way, but there's no more dine-in. So perhaps these are some of the things that we need to know. And e-commerce, of course, we have products and services, delivery channel, and logistics support. How do you capitalize on it today? Or as you know that, online shopping is the key to go, and online to look for it is the first thing that we do. We no longer go to the mall to buy things. All we need to do is access our smartphone and our PC, laptop, MacBook, whatever that is. Then we go and search for what we want, and it will be delivered to the comfort of our home, right? And then offices, for example, reinvention due to work from home is very critical, because offices no longer have its usual meaning and everyone is working from home. And new property investment mantra, you have to understand, really is a question of really location versus data. And whether can we still leverage on sharing economy these days? I think it will be redefined. It's no longer sharing of a space, everyone work together. It's rather sharing of a space whereby you no longer have a space for residential, but have a space to also doing your work and generate income at the same time. So buy in the new normal. So what are the choices? Let's look at the PIM, property investment model of my property investment model in relation to the buy. What is the buy in the new model, right? When you talk about buy in the new normal, first of all, choice are plenty. First of all, we still have HOCs going on happening, and we have post-moratorium shopping as well, right? And so what I'm telling you is that post-moratorium, things like that. So I'm just saying to you at this moment, we have moratorium happening. So it's a good time to do your shopping if you're interested, but then buy things that actually will generate income for you, right? The buying methods, there's plenty of buying methods also in the new normal. There are developers you can buy under con ready product, secondary market, right? And you can have actually market auction as well. You can create the sambong buyer kind of place, a lease option, rent to own. These are so many ways to buy. It's not just buying and selling per se and getting loan from the bank, right? Affordability. So instead of thinking about, what can you afford, think about cash flow. When we talk about affordability, it's all about cash flow and the liquidity as well, the incidental cost, just in case you need to add on whether to determine whether this is good enough for your investment. In new normal consideration also, you must also look at what to buy and its alignment to your intended redefined usage, right? So you must put in what are the new normal consideration. Later we'll introduce what those to you, and then it must align with your objective. Remember, whatever you're going to invest in, it must be objective driven and looking at your resources. So sell in a new normal. Competition is high again. How to stand out? All right. So again, everyone also thinking about liquefied property, and you know that property is one of the most hard to liquid kind of asset in your portfolio. So basically, in stand out, you have to stand out, make your property stand out in terms of usage, the package, or the way how you want to sell it. Don't let the buyer determine the buying model, but you can also think about how you want to sell it. Sell it to tenant, for example, sell it with a longer completion dates, sell it on a rent to own basis, things like that, right? And of course, you can talk about the channel. How do you sell it? Today, you can sell it online. Are you still engaging agent? How do you do it within your network of warm contact, and how do you actually schedule return and the payment terms, for example. And I think it's very important, the selling in the new normal have to focus on cash flow, right? And of course, if you are the owner and you are operating the business and you still have use for it, you can actually work out a sell and lease back kind of arrangement. For example, you might want to sell a property and lease back for your purpose, for that purpose, to stay, and also you have to sell on value, very important, and no longer on features and price. It's not about how low is your price and how good is your price and what kind of feature you have. You have to now today sell a value. Basically, the equation must be very attractive. So your plus and minus, your divided and times. So as far as I'm concerned, you have to illustrate value to sell in the new normal. So how do you use in the new normal? Again, use in a new normal is a very gray area legally. I will use the word never try, never know, right? Why do I say that? It's because you always have to expand and test the boundary. Because today, for example, residential, can you really work from home? I don't know, right? But local authority, there's no way they can actually come and enforce at the moment. And there are issue relation to this also, right? And I said sky is the limit until people tell you no. But the way I always say to everyone as a lawyer, in Malaysia, everything is possible until somebody say no. So everything is permissible until it's prohibited, right? So another thing about using is that, if you know how to use property, you can actually use it as a generate income thing, because whatever it is, premium is in the management today. It's not about what you have, but what you can do with it, right? So again, even on the use, you can explore from charging fees for monthly usage, which is your common money rental, to weekly, to daily, to hourly. All this is to ease the cash flow. So the whole idea here is really, by the way, to divide into weekly, daily, or hourly for all intents purposes, it can also manage your risk, so that you don't have to wait a month later only it become default, right? So things like that. It can also from nightly, this is actually in a hotel situation, a daily to pay per use model. I mean, these are the things that you can look at it, because there are various type of property, they can actually have different cater for different usage and different model. So the old way of getting monthly rental is getting old and you have to be more innovative as a property investor. Okay, from fixed income to profit sharing, that's another thing. If the tenant is struggling in their business, you probably want to explore profit sharing in relation to that. You can actually place a bet about things when they get normal, then their profit will be high, then you probably want to do that, and probably a formula for them to compensate back their shortfall. So the whole idea here is how do you work out the win-win solution with your investment. Then the e-commerce and digitalization consideration. So the use. Today is no longer the physical usage of the thing. It's also the important and how do you then tap into also e-commerce. Can you be part of the valuation chain? Can you be part of the digitalization consideration? So that's use in new normal. Borrow in the new normal. That's very important. Number one, be your own bank. What do you mean by be your own bank? So be your own bank basically is this. When you say borrow for all intended purposes, you can actually create a situation of rent to buy on your own to cater for people who want to buy from you but then have difficulty getting bank loan, for example. It could be a sell and lease back. It's also a way of borrow, means although I sell to you but I'm actually use it back. If you have good use for it, why not? All right, lease and sublease, you borrow from your landlord and then you lend it out to your subtenant. Of course, borrow also means that you should explore from family, friends, and fans these days. And of course, knowing with all the thing that's happening at the moment, you should look at beyond banks. How else can you borrow? EPF, insurance company, personal loan, and also those other scheme under affordability for the SME and property investor. You want to explore under most of those government assistance program that's been rolled out so far. And of course, beyond money, what can you borrow to use? Time and resources. Instead of talking money, can you ask for longer time? Can you use for resources for this purpose? For example, you don't have to pay for it, but find a different way to reward the owner of the property. That's also another thing for use, right? In relation to that. So it could be a barter for that purpose. Okay, looking at the buy, sell, use, borrow under PIM. So what are the new consideration in property investment in the now normal right now? Number one, you must always understand what is your option. Remember, you must chart out what can you do with the property before you put it in. Even if you're stuck with the property, ask yourself what can be done, right? Prepare for any eventuality, especially take advantage of the moratorium currently offered by the bank, and even talk to the bank in communication to them and work out a repayment if you have really cash flow issue. And very important, whatever you want to invest must always assure that there's actually a valid and feasible usage. So that's what I call usage driven investment. So if you are buying anything new at the moment, make sure that those are certain confirmed and established usage for that purpose. You must reduce speculation. Don't talk about future. Don't talk about future. Currently, we have to think short term. We have to think about what can be done now. What can be done now is very important, right? All we need to do is improve liquidity and open to new usage. For all intent and purposes, new usage is very, very interesting. For example, a restaurant with a good kitchen can now change to a central kitchen and offer people to use for that purpose, so that all the delivery can happen. You can see that a lot of people are showing off their cooking skill, baking skill in their house on the social media. They might want to have a place to start selling what they are cooking and start to earn some income also. The house might not be a good enough place. They might want to use some central kitchen which you are ready to share, and that usage as well. That's just one of the idea. So business to watch in the new normal. To keep your business growth, you must engage for self-help instead of relying on government assistance. The idea is this: if it's given, then take it. But if it's not taking it, you must think, how do you help yourself? So you have to chart out the resources and map out the opportunity vis-a-vis these thriving businesses. So these are what happened at the moment. Number one, online entertainment, gaming, streaming, content, etc. Every day we are on the screen right now. So whatever is on the screen is very, very useful today, right? Daily household product, these are things we cannot run away, right? PPE, personal protection equipment, your mask, for example. I don't know how many box of masks you've bought to date, but it's certainly something that happen. The next one is food, right? We cannot run away from it. And of course, it's basic, essential. Online learning, education, skill, leisure, and health, etc. These are essential because we can only do it online. And very important, baby products. Why do I say baby product? There's also a MCO baby boom at the moment. For all intent and purposes, this is also a good business to look at. So now think about all this good business and how your property can actually work out a win-win with these kind of businesses, right? And of course, the conclusion that I want to run for you is that demand is no longer the same as before. Capture digitalization trend is here to stay, right? But you are not alone in dealing with this. You have to understand everyone is facing this at the same time. Time to consolidate and take count of what we have to start afresh with new approach, right? Look for the enabler, right? So zero spread is a global movement right now. So if you ask me, even if one day every one of us get vaccinated and there's no more pandemic, trust me, digitalization and online and safety concern as well as sanitization will still be part of our life. So you better get ready now rather than waiting to get ready again when you're there. So get ready when you're here, and then when it go back to normal, there will be a mixture, at least the hybrid, you're at least being good at one of it, right? So specifically a property investor, what are the things that you should look at? I would say that warehouse is interesting because a lot of things, e-commerce, you need warehouse support and all that. Buying into REITs is also interesting because then you have to look at, leverage on investment because REITs is traded and it's listed. So looking at some of the warehouse REITs, perhaps logistic REITs will be very useful. And of course, look at all these things. And also commercial spaces, right? Because today, if you talk about work from home, Soho was actually originally designed for work from home. So how do we make it, and also how are they strategically located so that the seller and sporting industry can leverage? For example, if there's any investment that stay in between a logistic hub, like an airport or Port Klang, for example, and the center of business activity, right? So, and by the way, whatever it is, right, property that you are buying, you must give it some time and you must always be ready to tweak it in order to get it done. So the last part of my presentation is on dispute prevention and management of property investor, right? So very simple, property investor at this moment, you're facing a lot of challenges, especially if you have tenant, right? There's a lot of dispute that can happen because the tenant will be late in payment. They'll ask you for some discount and whatnot, right? So you must always remember, number one, because of movement control, if you have a property that is actually beyond your locality, make sure you hire a very good property manager for remote management is absolutely required today, right? Number two, virtual property tour to sell, buy, right? Beware of miscommunication. It's very important. If you want to sell a property today, you probably have to do a virtual property tour of your property, learning from what the developer is doing on their project. And being a property investor, you can do the same if you want to rent out or you want to sell your property. All right. Next one, explore online signing. Again, a lot of legal firms are already engaged in online signing. Obviously, there are challenges, but the whole idea here is something that we have to do today because face-to-face signings is already not very possible. Right. Another thing is that the changing rules and regulation due to unstable political and pandemic. So home ownership and investment are secondary now. So you have to understand we are not the flavor of the month, but then we have to, as a property investor, we have to find a way to save ourselves. And you have to always be keep updated because the rules are always changing. So don't miss out. Every change of rule is an opportunity as well. See how you can make the best out of it. Okay, so the dispute prevention method, to me, there's a few things. Number one, you must always know your right. So when I say know your right is this, if you have a tenancy agreement, know what is your right as a landlord. If you have a sales and purchase agreement that is yet to be completed, you must know what is your right as a seller or as a buyer, right? So know your right is very important. Knowing where you are can then only know how to deal with the challenges. So it's like know yourself, know your enemy, right? 100 victories won, right? So again, be realistic. You are not alone here. So the idea is that you're facing a problem. Whoever on the other side is also facing the problem, and you are realistic enough to understand that everyone is competing. So, for example, if you want to hold up the best price for your property and whatever that is, you have to think twice again because for all intents and purposes, your neighbor equally also want to rent out their property or even want to sell, right? Always communicate and explore a win-win solution. Remember, if you don't communicate, you never know how to actually get a way out of this, right? So last, you must keep updated by the latest financial assistance program and see how it can help you communicate with your bank because they can be your best friend in relation to this. So I think another very important consideration is really the post-pandemic world. All right. So what can we learn from history? So if you have time as a property investor, may I introduce you to really look into this topic? For example, back to business, capitalizing on the post-pandemic spending boom. For example, in China, after their lockdown or the first round lockdown, because they are ahead of us in front of that, once they're back to business, there is this thing called a post-pandemic spending boom. Basically, it's like a revenge. So there's a lot of things. So you have to get ready, property investor, to make the most of this, because otherwise, if you don't reposition your property for that purpose, it will be very challenging. All right. So again, even in the US, they already said that possible post-pandemic move for US real estate, which means real estate for all intent purposes, because of the inflation, because of everything else, there's potentially a boom for real estate as well. And the requirement after the post-pandemic world is very much different. So you have to bear that in mind. So one other consideration about your objective is how to capitalize on this post-pandemic real estate and spending boom. So with that, I conclude my presentation on this video today. I hope you learned something good. So get yourself vaccinated, get yourself protected, safe, stay safety. If you and me work together, right, very soon, we will actually go back to the normal. At least in the next normal, you can actually do back things that we used to do, right? Get vaccinated, stay home, and stay safe. You can contact us and check us as Chur Associate on our Facebook page. Please like and share. When you do that, it's very important because we have a lot of updates and information and latest SOP that is very useful to use as property investor. And of course, you can also follow me online. This is my public page on Facebook, Chris Tan Chen Zhuoping. And then please like and share as well. And with that, I thank you for your intention. If you like to contact me, please, you can email me at christan@churassociate.com. Meanwhile, stay safe and let's see you in the next normal. Thank you.